The moment I saw the letter, I knew my peaceful Saturday morning had been ruined. There it was, stuffed in my mailbox like a ticking time bomb wrapped in HOA stationery, thick, official, and radiating pure condescension. It carried the unmistakable scent of suburban oppression. I hadn't even finished my first sip of coffee before I tore it open, half hoping it was just another useless newsletter about proper mailbox etiquette. But no, my eyes locked onto the words that instantly spiked my blood pressure. Violation notice. Your house must be repainted within 30 days. For a full minute, I stood there on my porch, blinking at the paper like it had personally insulted my family. My house was fine, perfectly fine. It wasn't falling apart, it wasn't an eyesore, and as far as I knew, I hadn't painted a giant middle finger on the side. So what was the problem? I skimmed down to the specifics, my fingers tightening around the paper as I read the reason. Your current house color does not align with the community's aesthetic standards. Immediate action is required. A slow, incredulous laugh bubbled up in my throat. My house was beige, a completely normal, inoffensive beige, the same shade as half the houses on the block. Was it a little warmer than the others? Sure. Did it somehow lower property values and send the neighborhood into chaos? Absolutely not. I glanced up, scanning my street, half expecting to see a secret panel of HOA spies lurking in the bushes, waiting to see if I would react. Nothing, just the usual dull, cookie-cutter houses lined up like a row of well-behaved children, all dressed in shades of gray and tan. And then, as if summoned by my growing irritation, the devil herself arrived. Dolores Kensington, HOA president, neighborhood overlord, and a woman who seemed personally offended by the concept of individuality, was marching up my driveway with the determination of someone who had just been given the power to ruin a life and was eager to wield it. Her short, calculated steps sent her crisp beige skirt swaying, because, of course, she dressed like the houses she patrolled. She clutched a clipboard like it was a weapon, her expression a mix of smug authority and barely contained disdain. "Good morning, Mr. Fletcher," she chirped in that insincere, overly professional tone that made my teeth itch. "I assume you received the notice?" "Oh, I received it all right," I said, waving the letter in the air. "Tell me, Dolores, what exactly is the problem with my house? Did it personally offend you? Whisper insults about your taste in home decor." Her smile didn't falter, but her left eye twitched just a little. "Your house's current shade of beige is outside of our approved color spectrum. The HOA guidelines clearly state that all homes must maintain a uniform neutral aesthetic." I stared at her, deadpan. "It's beige. A warm beige," she corrected as if I had just confessed to a crime. "The board has determined that it does not blend seamlessly with the rest of the neighborhood." I looked past her at the endless stretch of slightly different shades of beige, gray, and off-white houses. It was like staring at the world's most boring paint sample chart. "So let me get this straight," I said, rubbing my temples. "You're telling me that my house, my property, has to be repainted because it's 2 shades warmer than Ron's house across the street?" Dolores pursed her lips as if explaining basic concepts to a toddler. "Aesthetic consistency is what keeps our property values high, Mr. Fletcher. The board has given you 30 days to comply. If you do not repaint your house to an approved color, you will incur a fine of $50 per day until the issue is resolved." The sheer audacity of it nearly made me choke. $50 a day for a shade of beige. I let out a sharp laugh. "You have got to be kidding me." Dolores didn't blink. "We take these rules very seriously." I wanted to argue, to tell her that this was the most absurd thing I'd ever heard, but I knew it wouldn't matter. The HOA thrived on power, and Dolores loved enforcing it like a tyrant ruling over her miniature beige kingdom. I could fight this, sure, but the battle would be long, tedious, and filled with more paperwork than my patience could handle. But as I watched Dolores turn on her heel, marching back down my driveway with the certainty of someone who had just won a battle, an idea formed in my head. If they wanted my house repainted, fine. I would repaint it. But I would make sure that when I was done, my house wouldn't just fail to blend in. It would stand out so spectacularly, so gloriously that it would haunt their nightmares. That evening, I sat on my back porch with my best friend, Ryan, cracking open a couple of beers as I laid out my predicament. Ryan, a man who thrived on chaos just as much as I did, listened with an expression that slowly morphed from sympathy to pure, unfiltered delight. So let me get this straight, he said, shaking his head. They're forcing you to repaint your house because it's too warm of a beige? Exactly. And you legally have to comply? Unfortunately. A slow grin spread across his face. So what if you painted it rainbow? The idea hit me like a lightning bolt. At first, I laughed. But then it settled. It took root. It bloomed into something so ridiculous, so brilliantly petty that I realized it was the perfect response. They never said I couldn't, I mused, taking a sip of my beer. Ryan smacked the table. Dude, they can't say a damn thing if you follow the rule. They said repaint. They didn't say what color. The more I thought about it, the more I loved it. A full rainbow house, standing tall and proud in a sea of beige. An undeniable middle finger to the HOA's power trip. The idea alone was enough to make my frustration melt into amusement. Ryan leaned in. Do it. Make it bright. Make it loud. Give Dolores a damn aneurysm. I grinned. Challenge accepted. And just like that, my peaceful Saturday had turned into the beginning of the greatest act of neighborhood rebellion this town had ever seen.